Hello, everyone. Welcome to Be Your Own Hero. Thank you for joining me. My name is Mark Kageyama, and I'm a stage 4 prostate, bone, and lung cancer patient. I am so excited to be here again today. I just love sharing this platform with inspiring people with incredible stories, and we have another one to share with you again today. And I'm excited about 2023, and I hope you are too. Very optimistic about a great year. And if we think it's going to be a great year, chances are it will be a great year. And so, as far as my health goes, I do have some scans later on this month or next month in February. So I will let everybody know what happens with that. But I did have an oncology appointment not too long ago, last week, in fact, and my oncologist was real happy with the results of my last testing, and she said that everything is at least as good as it was before or better. So she wanted me to take a new medication, and I just told her, I said, I told her, let's make a deal. And she said, okay, what's the deal? And I said, hey, if my numbers and things go south, then I'll consider taking it. But I don't want to just take it just to take it. And she said, okay, fair enough. And I was like, oh, that went well. That was easy. So that was really, really good. And if this was uh, early in our journey, she would have been fighting me. But now she knows how serious I am about taking care of my life. I've been on time to every single appointment, every single hospital visit, every single oncology visit. So she knows that I'm not just kidding around, and that I'll do what I say. So anyway, that was good news. I was happy about that. But I'm even happier about my guest today, Kim Sorrelle. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, I'm Kim Sorrelle. I'm an entrepreneur. I started my first business right out of high school. I run a nonprofit organization, and I have 5 kids and 11 grandkids. And I write and I speak, and have had a pretty crazy journey when it comes to cancer. I was diagnosed with breast cancer a few years ago, and 4 months after I was diagnosed, my husband of nearly 29 years was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and passed away 6 weeks later. And it was crazy going from being cared for to caretaker to widow to figuring out a whole new life and figuring out how much I dislike cancer.
I can't even imagine what you've been through. So let's start there. Let's start there and talk about you know, so you have cancer. What was going through your mind at that time? And then, when your husband got diagnosed, and by the way, my wife and I just celebrated our 29th year anniversary ourselves on January 1st. But yeah, please tell us what was going through your mind during that time. Yeah, that's something that we would like to know.
Sure. Well, I was in total denial. I went kicking and screaming to a mammogram, told them that I was wasting my time, followed by an ultrasound, followed by a biopsy, and got a phone call on a Friday afternoon, late Friday afternoon. So I couldn't ask questions. There's nothing I could do, just go into the weekend, and got this phone call saying that I had cancer. And I didn't know anybody who had had breast cancer. I was 47 years old, and I never thought in a million years that I would hear those words at that point in life. We had just become empty nesters, my husband and I, and we were really looking forward to it. I love my kids, but there's something about being just the two of you that I was really looking forward to, whatever that means, whatever it is that you do as empty nesters. And so it happened in August, and in September I got a diagnosis. And I went to the bookstore on the next day, on Saturday, because I thought surely there's something out there that will help me figure this out, that will tell me what it's like. And I found that everything was either depressing or really medical. And I wanted to know what it felt like. Like, what am I going to go through? Are there choices I have to make? Are there things I need to do? Where do I turn? Where do I go? And so I started writing so that people would have. So somebody in my situation that was looking for something as a kind of a guide as to what to expect, that it would be there for them.
What you bring up a great point. So you started journaling, right? What did that do for you mentally?
Oh, it did so much for me. I mean, getting it out on paper was the best therapy that I could possibly have gotten. And at that point, I was sending them out as emails every time I'd write. And before I knew it, 5,000 people were reading my emails. And it helped me a lot. The support that I gained from that was wonderful. And just getting it down on paper just makes a difference, out of your head and down on paper.
I kind of went a different route myself. Was I started this channel, and my goal when I started the channel was to just help one person. But the incredible thing about what this channel has meant for me is the person that it helped the most was me. And so you don't realize it at the time, but I reflect back, and it's really been such a blessing and such an incredible experience to share this platform with so many incredible people such as yourself. So I totally get it. So go ahead, let me get out of the way here.
Well, shortly after I was diagnosed, my husband started having these stomach pains. And he went to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Oh, you're just nervous because of your wife, and take some Tums or Rolaids and you'll be fine." So that was the end of September. And then November, he went to the doctor again because things weren't getting better.
What year is this? Excuse me.
This is 08.
Oh, wait, okay.
Mm-hmm. And so he said, the doctor said the same thing. Yeah, I'm sure it's just a nervous stomach. Just take some Tums and call it good. But made an appointment for him anyway at a gastro guy. So in January, he had this appointment with a gastro specialist, and I am the mouth of the family. He was quieter. He was so kind and just sweet and not really questioning. And I would have been at that appointment asking every question, insisting they run a test, do something. But the very next day, I was having a complete hysterectomy and a colonoscopy because of my cancer, the kind of breast cancer I had to have that done. And so I was doing the clean out. I was doing the colon cleanse for the colonoscopy the next day. So I couldn't be away from my bathroom. So I was unable to go with him. And he came home from the appointment and said, well, he saw a PA. The doctor wasn't in, and was told to take some Tums. And I was so upset because I thought, oh my word, we waited so long for this appointment, and this is what you're hearing? Like, what is going on? Then I had my surgery the next day, and 1 week later, I woke up and my husband was already awake, and he just was miserable. And I said, well, that's it. You're going to the ER, because at least they'll run a test. They'll do something. They'll do something for you. So he left and went, because I was still in my pajamas watching Grey's Anatomy reruns, trying to recover from surgery. And they found bladder cancer too when they did the surgery. So anyway, so it was a little bit more surgery than I anticipated. So I was still recovering. And he called me finally from the ER And he said, well, I guess they're going to keep me overnight. And I thought, keep you overnight? They don't keep anybody overnight. Why would they keep you overnight? And so I threw on clothes and rushed out of my house and drove in my Vicodin induced state to the hospital.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Wow.
Right. And I was almost there when he called again and said, well, I guess there's a spot on my liver. And I just started bawling. I just cried and just started weeping. And I got to the hospital, ran in, found out where he was. He was behind a curtain, and I whipped back the curtain and I'm sobbing. And he's just sitting on the bed, like nothing's going on, just sitting there. And he said, you know, I am not going to invite you out anymore if this is the way you're going to behave. And I said, listen, buddy, you are not allowed to be funny right now. But it took a few days. And I was in denial again. Like they ran the CA 125, and his numbers were outrageous. And so they were sure he had cancer. And I'm like, well, if the numbers are that bad, maybe the lab made a mistake. Because if you've never seen numbers like this, you know, certainly the lab makes mistakes sometimes. Why don't you rerun? And no, they wouldn't. And it was just whatever. They decided to do a colonoscopy. They thought for sure he had colon cancer. Decided to do a colonoscopy and a liver biopsy at the same time. And then found out, no, it wasn't colon cancer. It was pancreatic cancer.
Wow. Oh my goodness. So at that point, I can't even imagine going through the peak of cancer yourself, and you're having to deal with your husband's cancer. That just blows my mind. I mean, that is how did you handle all of that?
Well, physically, not as well as I would have wished. Because I had just had surgery, and then I'm at the hospital with him, sleeping in the bed with him at night, the little hospital bed, and I didn't want to leave his side. And he was in just for 3 days. But I ended up getting admitted as he was being discharged because I ended up with a bad kidney infection. Yeah. So his first oncology appointment, they actually put me in a wheelchair and wheeled me over so that I could be at his appointment, because I insisted that I was not going to miss his appointment. And so, but I recovered, you know, went home a few days later. And, you know, we had just been through it with my father-in-law 2 years, almost to the day before. My father-in-law was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And then 2 years, almost to the day before my husband, he died. So he also lived just 6 weeks like my husband did. And
Wow.
So we'd experienced pancreatic cancer. We knew about it because we'd just dealt with it. And so we knew that it was a horrible diagnosis. So we just prayed from the very beginning, Lord, heal him like you did the blind and the lepers, or the ultimate healing of heaven. But please don't let him suffer. Don't let him suffer. That was our prayer every day. And God showed incredible mercy, and he didn't suffer with what's supposed to be the most painful cancer that there is.
Wow. Oh my goodness. So when he's when both of you are going through all of this, what was going through his mind? You know, I can't even imagine this situation. I mean, both of you going through major cancer issues at the same time. That is just beyond comprehension. So what was going through his mind? Was he more worried about you, or what?
Yeah, definitely. Like there would be times that I would just start crying because we spent that 6 weeks at home together, and it was great. It was a great 6 weeks. And we were told that he probably would live a year and maybe longer because he was young and healthy, 6'3", 175 pounds. He was fit and active, and ate good food and did the right things. And so would probably outlive the odds a little bit. We never expected 6 weeks. I mean, that was just so fast. But we had this great time together watching Cash Cab and some football and, whatever we did, playing some gin rummy and just had a good time together. But there were times that I would just start crying because I'd think about it and just think about losing him and just start crying. And he would hold me and say, "Don't cry for me. Don't cry for me. I know where I'm going. You're the one that has to stay here." And that was his perspective, was I think knowing that it's a terminal diagnosis somehow gave him a peace, because with cancer, there are so many that you fight, that there's some odds in your favor. And then there's a couple that they just have not done enough research, don't have a cure for. There's nothing they can do about it. And statistically, you're just not going to make it. And so it's like he didn't have to fight anything. He just knew that he was going to go.
So what made those 6 weeks great? When you really get down to and you really reflect back. I mean, I think so many people with cancer have regrets, and it doesn't sound like he did. So can you talk about that, please?
Right. Yeah. Well, and we had a great marriage. And so it's not like only that 6 weeks was great, but we traveled, we did the things, we didn't put off things. We spent time together, just the two of us, and had date night and did the things to keep our marriage strong. And during the 6 weeks, just the being together, just that we were able to be together 24/7, because you're not together 24/7 typically, and you go to work and you do things and there's stuff during the day. So just being together 24 hours a day was wonderful. And he didn't want me to leave, like even go to the grocery store. He didn't want me to go to the grocery store. He needed me to be just right there. So fortunately, there was family to help with things like the grocery store. And so I was able to just be with him and stay with him. But it was just wonderful being together. And I think too, it's like you treasure the time more because it's not going to be another 50 years. And so we just enjoyed each other. We were in love. We loved each other. And it was just really great to be together.
That is so awesome. That is so great to hear. And time is just so precious. It's so precious, and we're given one life, and so I think anybody who's dealt with cancer knows that it's every single moment is precious, and so that's the thing that is so important to me, is getting the most out of, we're all going to die. I mean, that's just biological fact. We're all going to die. We just don't know when that's going to happen. And so that's why it's so important to make the most out of every single possible moment. And it sounds like you did that with your husband, which is fantastic. I really, really admire that. So yeah. But again, I can't even imagine what led up, just, did you know you were surprised that he only survived 6 weeks, but leading up to that and the days before he passed, was there any indication that things were not going well?
Well, there were a couple of times when he was just gone. Like he's walking around the house, and whatever. We never had any equipment. We never had a hospital bed or anything like that. We just were in our home, and I had incredible hospice care. But there were a couple of times that I would look into his eyes and know that he was somewhere else. It was like death was a transition rather than just a moment. And so he was just gone. And I didn't really ask him about it uh, because it just seemed personal and just where he needed to be at the moment. And the week before he passed, he wanted to have a meeting with all the kids, and he was doing great. So, but for whatever reason, he was compelled to meet with all the kids, and four of our kids could be there in person, but one of our sons was in the Navy at the time. So he videoed in, and I don't know I was watching grandkids while they were talking because I thought it was important for them to have that time alone. And so they had a great conversation, and that week too, he asked to see our pastor, and we were going to a huge church, huge church. So the pastor's a pretty busy guy. And I'm thinking, yeah, maybe a month from now, a couple weeks from now, he'll have a spot in his schedule. Well, he came over the next day and came with another pastor, and that I left them alone as well. And when they came out of the room, they were both crying and said that my husband had ministered to them way more than they could have ministered to him. And so then we went to bed on a Saturday night, and Sunday morning he woke up in pain. And it was really the first time that we had to call hospice for pain. He had been on morphine, like he had pain, his pain was controlled, but now all of a sudden he lost control of the pain. And so I called the hospice nurse, and she came right over and gave him more morphine. And then I was saying, well, what's going on? Do I call my kids or what? And she's like, oh, no, you've got lots of time. You've got lots of time, weeks, months, maybe. And I'm like, you're sure? And he was sitting on the edge of the bed. And so I was holding him from behind because I didn't want him to fall off. But it hurt him to lay down, which is why he was sitting up, because his abdomen hurt so bad. And she was on the phone in our bedroom ordering all the equipment, the bed, the commode, the whatever. And I was holding him, and I could just feel his misery. I could just feel how absolutely miserable he was. And so I just whispered in his ear, I just said, baby, just go. And that was it. That was it. He never took another breath after that.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah. I mean, that takes incredible strength. So I don't have any words to say to that. That is just, to have to do that is just beyond comprehension. And so all this is going on, and you're still dealing with things on your own. So how were you able to do that?
Well, I didn't think about myself, frankly. I put some of the stuff that I needed to do on hold so I could focus on him, and then picked it up again later and got through it just fine. And I just didn't think about myself at all during that time or what I had to deal with. I just put it on the back burner.
Wow. I mean, so once he passed, I imagine that you started focusing solely on yourself. Is that right?
Right.
So
Right.
how did that go after he passed?
Well, certainly different dealing with it without him than dealing with it with him, because he was so supportive. In fact, when I got the phone call that I had cancer, I called him right away at work, and it seemed like it was seconds and he was home. And I was crying, and he just came in and just helped me, which is what you should do. And he just helped me, and we just held each other for the longest time. And I knew that he was a great man of faith, and that prayer was a big thing to him. And we just believed like God would take care of things, and he did. And so then, not having that support, I got support from other people, from sister-in-laws and my kids and whoever, but not the same as with your spouse. And but my theory all along was that I would do anything to change things. You know, if I could have him back for a day, if I could have him back for an hour, if I could have him back, I would. You know, if it turned out differently, it'd be wonderful. Like, I would love that. But I don't get to have him back. And I don't get to choose that. It was out of my control. I wouldn't choose for anyone to ever have cancer, but it happens. And but you don't choose it. But what I can choose is how I live, and I can choose joy, and I can choose to be happy. I can choose to honor him by living a full life and helping people, doing things. And so those are the choices I decided I need to make every day.
That's awesome. That is truly, truly awesome. I really commend you for that. And uh, so beautiful. It's really beautiful. So talk about you run a nonprofit. What is it, and what do you do there?
Yeah, Rays of Hope International. We're a partnering organization. I'm the director. And so we help people in their own country that have a passion, mission, vision to help people in their own country. So they understand the language, they understand the real need, they understand the culture, but just need someone to walk alongside, you know. So it could be a business plan or raising money to get things going, or help with getting the supplies that they need for a school or a medical clinic, or, you know, whatever they're passionate about doing, always leading towards self-sustainability, so that at some point in time they're not chasing dollars anymore, but they're able to just do the work. And so I worked with hundreds of organizations in Haiti. We work in Burkina Faso and West Africa. We do a lot in the Dominican Republic. In the Dominican Republic, we have our own things as well: schools, medical clinic, water treatment plants, and community projects. So we just, that's what we do.
That is beautiful. That how did you, what did any of your dealings with cancer drive you to do that?
Well, I was doing it way before the cancer. There was a year that there was a hurricane that went right over Dominican Republic and was just devastating. And I got on the phone and just found all kinds of donated items and sent 4 huge containers of relief items over to the Dominican Republic. And then that Christmas, my husband and I and our 4 kids went to do the Dominican Republic and helped hand out supplies and work there for a week instead of doing Christmas as usual. And I saw the need, and I saw the organization and what people were trying to do, and came home and joined the board of the organization right away, and ended up running that organization a few years later. And you know, you were talking earlier about how doing this program, how you've gotten so much more out of it than you realize. Well, it's the same with when I go to Haiti or Dominican Republic or wherever. It's like you can't outgive. Somehow you just get more. Like you want to just give and pour into people, but what you get back is just so much more than you can ever give.
I love that. You can't outgive. That I'm gonna remember that one. That is so beautiful. That is so, I really admire what you do, and your spirit, and your drive. And you know, you could have just given up. You could have just said, you know, all this stuff is too much. I'm going to stay in my house and feel sorry for myself. But you did the complete opposite, which I really admire. So that is just so fantastic. So yeah, I mean, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to leave everyone here?
Yeah, I would say that that you do get to pick your attitude. When you get a diagnosis or you have a family member or a friend with a diagnosis, you get to pick your attitude. And so choose wisely. Choose wisely, because our minds have a lot more power than we realize. And you can choose how to react to things. I think of like if you were in a traffic jam, there might be a guy in a car just beating on the steering wheel and mad and angry and honking his horn and come on, get moving, get moving. And the next guy in this very same traffic jam is going, I'm stuck. There's nothing I can do. Let me find a good YouTube channel, perhaps, or a podcast to listen to, and just have a completely different attitude. And his blood pressure's not going up. He's not getting angry. He's not going home angry. It's how he chose to handle it. And we get to choose how we handle anything. We get to choose our reaction. So choose wisely.
That is awesome. Truly awesome. Kim, thank you so much for, in fact, we talk a lot about what you just talked about on this channel. I mean, the subconscious mind is so powerful, and people don't realize the importance and the power behind their own minds. And, most people have heard that, we only use a very, very small portion. I think it's like 7% of our brain. And why not expand it? And why not utilize more of it? And, you know, the mind is like a computer, only it's human. And so what we put into our minds is, what comes out of it. So if we're constantly putting negativity in our minds, then pretty soon you right away you start thinking like a negative person. And what I've come to find through my journey is I don't allow negativity in my day. I just don't have time. Sure, people come at me, and that's the great thing about, for instance, social media is there are uh, block buttons and things you could do to get rid of the negativity. You also have that opportunity in your own life. You don't have to accept people's negativity. I don't have time for it in my day. I only have time to talk to people such as you with a great attitude. And so I thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing your incredible story with us. And it's been an honor and a pleasure. So thank you so much. And the way I end up videos is I share a couple of quotes, and I want to share a couple of quotes right now. And the first one is, and these are coming from Roy T. Bennett, The Light in the Heart. And the first one is, success is not how high you have climbed, but how you make a positive difference in the world. So you read my mind, you knew what I was going to say. So that I appreciate what you just said as far as being positive, because that's what I completely believe. And the second quote is, your hardest times often lead to the greatest moments of your life. Keep going. Tough situation builds strong people in the end. And that's exactly what you have done. So thank you, Kim Sorrelle, for spending this time with me and with our audience on To Be Your Own Hero. Please like, subscribe, make a comment in the comment section, and make the most out of every single day, every single hour, every single minute, and every single breath. Thank you once again for joining us here at To Be Your Own Hero, and we will see you next week with another video with another great person that we've come in contact with. So thank you very much, and we'll see you later.